So there are 4 open cities right now in Lithuania. That would be Vilnius, which is the capital, down at the bottom, which is kind of strange because most capitals are somewhere near the center of the country. Kaunas, which is the cultural capital of Lithuania. It's the 2nd largest city. And then we've got Šiauliai, which is the smallest of the open cities, which is in the interior of Lithuania, and the port city, Klaipėda. All of those cities are, Klaipėda is the 3rd largest. Kind of like the size of Spokane, my hometown. So that kind of gives you an idea of the relative sizes and the amounts of people in the open cities. There are actually 5 branches, even though there are 4 cities. A Russian-speaking unit, Lithuanian-speaking unit in the capital, and then Lithuanian conducted services with maybe a song or 2 in Russian in Klaipėda and Šiauliai. The units vary in size in each of those. I don't know about the Russian branch, I never attended that one, but it seemed a little bit, I would say maybe comparable to the size of Kaunas. I don't know. Probably not actually. Kaunas has had, but in Vilnius there's about 70 people that come to church regularly in the Lithuanian branch. In Kaunas, I don't know what it is now, but I think it was around, that one would go up and down a lot more. That was around 40, 50. Klaipėda was around 40, and Šiauliai was around 20, 22. And those numbers, I don't, yeah. So those are about the relative sizes. And I think the interesting thing that new missionaries may not know is that, or may not expect, is that there are more than one set of missionaries in each unit. So you may have another companionship in that city, or maybe 2. And I think that was really interesting to work with more missionaries with a unit. So maybe some of you would work. It was just kind of fun to have so many people to be able to work in one city. So the church in Lithuania, they celebrated their 20th year since opening, since the gospel was introduced to Lithuania, and it was progressively opened in the cities according to size. In Vilnius and Kaunas, in Klaipėda, then Šiauliai. Šiauliai was introduced. The gospel was introduced, I think, about 10 years after Vilnius. But it was really fun to celebrate with the members. 20 years since the gospel had been introduced, and there's a few YouTube videos if you want to look those up too. I think it would be really worth it. That of course happened after the fall of the Soviet Union. Other countries were directly or had the gospel introduced to them slightly before. For example, I think in Narva, up in Estonia. But it's been about 20 years for Lithuania. They were really trying to get a Baltic stake, and that's kind of an interesting concept. 3 or 4 countries in one stake. And these countries, they're pretty small, but Lithuania is about the size of West Virginia, so not as small as you may think. So that would include branches in the capital cities, maybe another one in another city, but you need 5 wards, not branches. You need 5 wards, and I think there were some problems that they ran into with finding the 5th ward, and or whether or not they would include Minsk in the Baltic stake, because there's maybe too much red tape around Belarus, and whether or not the church can get in and out and function as a stake in that area. I think, of course, they're all pushing for a stake somehow. It'll just be interesting to see how they do it. Cool. So I guess moving on to your other question. Sure. The really just aspect of Lithuania. They're a Catholic country, but they also have other influences that you may not be aware of. Unlike maybe I guess because of all the turmoil and stuff that sometimes has occurred in their history, you have kind of a different religious, they have a different religious experience. For example, communism really introduced atheism to them. And some people might see that more religious than others, but I think that most of them think of it kind of more as an absence of religion and just not really understanding it. They were the last Christianized people in Europe, and they're very proud of that. But nonetheless, they're somehow some people are very stubbornly Catholic. For example, the symbol of the cultural capital Conus is a bull with a cross nailed to its skull. And they told us how stubborn they are because of that. There are a few influences like Hare Krishnaism, which you may not expect, and it is somewhat popular there because it spread even during communist times, and people met in secret. And they also enjoy that because Lithuanian is actually a very ancient language, and they more similar to Sanskrit than most living languages. So they find reading those texts easier than you or I would. So yeah, I had a few investigators who I kind of had a different or a non-Christian tradition that they were introduced to, and to some degree or another accepted or didn't accept. Very few people are Protestant. Most people that are Protestant may be Jehovah's Witnesses. The Protestant side of Lithuania would be near Klaipėda, which used to be part of East Prussia and not with the Polonized portion of the rest of Lithuania. But Klaipėda right now, I would say, is fairly Catholic, even though it had a more Protestant past. So kind of a rich history. But right now they're fairly Catholic with some, I guess, more pagan tendencies than you would see in other Catholic countries.